Hello and welcome back. So in this video, we're going to see how we can modify the countif in order to capture a select all applies scenario, such as what type of meat you consume. So this question. So if you'll look, each of these lines, these students responded more than one. And so we'll choose to compile this data in a little bit of a different way, simply because of the sheer amount of responses the students had. Like the students had 3, 2, they had 1, 4 answers there. So we are going to go ahead and compile that. Anytime you're dealing with data like this, you're going to go ahead and separate it out. You want to make sure you're familiar with your checkpoints, incorporating those in to make sure that there's not like a clerical error when you copy it over. So I know I have 56 students, but because I put the question at the top, we are 1 down, so we end on line 57. Tells me I didn't miss any of the data when copying it over. So in this scenario, we could use the countif like we did in the first video, where if the students responded more than one, we offset that by a factor. So if they responded twice, we multiplied our count by 0.5 to offset that double count. In this case, we do have students that responded 3 or more times. And if we were going to do it in the way we did in that first video, it would be a headache. It simply would. So you want to think about what you're trying to show with your data in order to compile it in a useful way. In this case, we're caring mostly about the proportions, the percentages to compare the type of meat consumed. All right, so I got my categories. These were the categories of meat that we were looking at here. They could select up to these 4. So we're still going to use a select all applies, or we're still dealing with the select all applies, and we're still going to use a countif. We're just going to count them ever so slightly. We need to know how many times, like a frequency, that lamb showed up and beef showed up and chicken showed up. So in this case, you're going to see the countif be used again. And we're going to deal with the same body, information here. Select the cells, follow with a comma, and then we're going to open up those quotations, and that's what it's going to count. Now, if we I want to show you why the good old-fashioned one that we did in the first video doesn't work here, is if we just do lamb, all right, and we're going to get a count of 0 here. And you'll notice our lamb, because we do have a scenario where somebody could have, picked lamb, beef, and chicken. So we want to know how many times lamb appears, just how many times lamb appears. And it doesn't matter what the student selected on with it. So we want lamb in any context that it appeared, with anything on either side counted. And when we put those little stars, little asterisks right there on either side of lamb, it says it doesn't matter if they chose fish and chicken before, and it doesn't matter if they chose beef after. If lamb showed up in that cell, we are going to count it. Now, in this case, your total won't be 56 because your students, like when we sum all these up, because it is going to double count here. Now, if you wanted to see that data in more detail, you just do what we did in the first video, where you would have that count that ends up to 56, but every single possible combination of how lamb could appear, and every single possible combination of offsetting the double count. And that just wasn't reasonable in the scope that I had to be able to do this data. And if you're on this shortened timeline in your capstone class, it may not be reasonable if you write that formula in there. And so this is a different way of getting valid information, but in a different way. So there's our lamb. We're going to do the same thing, equals countif. It's going to go ahead and bring that up for you. We want to make sure that it has the correct cells, and notice it does not. We are going to highlight those cells. You can also type them in. I prefer to highlight. And then we're going to hit a comma. We are going to open up our quotation marks, and then we're going to hit that asterisk again, because we already know that we don't have time to go, format every single possible combination, but we do have time to search how many times the word beef appears. So it doesn't matter what's to the left of beef. It doesn't matter what's to the right of beef. If beef appears, we're going to count it. And And so I'm actually always so happy when errors appear because I had a typo that's supposed to be count if. So go ahead and make sure that that is a count if. And now it is correct. There we go. So just be careful if something seems off. It doesn't hurt to go through and double check yourself. We're going to keep on keeping on with the countif, and this does not change. All right. And if you want to copy and paste, as I like to do, as long as you're careful with it, please go ahead and do so. That way you don't have to do this every single time. That is perfectly fine. All right. Now we don't care what's to the left of chicken. We don't care what's to the right of chicken. We just know we need to count how many times chicken shows up. So here we are. And moving on to the last one. Same range. And again, you can type that in, you can copy and paste, whatever works best for you. And we're dealing with, we don't care what's to the right of fish. We don't care what's to the left of fish. We just care about how many times fish appears in those cells. And there you have it. Now, Excel does have this nifty little thing where you can drag down. I don't know how many times it just is a mess. I don't like it. I like to go in and make sure that Excel is only so good at pattern recognition. So I go in each time and I make sure I type it in and just check the math, make sure that there isn't anything messed up there. All right, so in this case, you could completely bypass the percentages if you wanted to and go straight to a pie chart. So and that's the best way to visualize this information. Somebody asked during our class today if what's the best way to visualize information. Well, this one, definitely not a bar chart because students can double count themselves. We're really looking at the proportions, those percents, the comparisons. So again, I like myself a pie chart. Pie chart is the best here. Highlight, insert, go over to your pie, double click, go ahead, change that title to whatever it is that best represents what your information is trying to show. And in this case, we are done. All right. Well, there you have it. That is how to use COUNTIF in a slightly different way, depending on what you are trying to show with your information and how to create a corresponding graph in Excel. And just in case you need it again, I do like my data levels. It did not show that. Prefer my percentages over my values. I want to make sure you can see those percentages. And there's those percentages. And it makes sense. We go here, we look lamb, 21%. Hey, around 21%. And we are good. Thank you so much for your time.